All right. Feels good to be back on another episode of Super Podshots. Um, Hopefully my mic is coming through clear, man. It seems like I've been having a lot of issues with my mic and a lot of issues lately with just coming through clear for the fans to listen to. Everybody is out here talking about the big news with Microsoft and Crackdown. We will definitely get into that shortly. And I'm kind of tired of people trying to force the Xbox One X into being a sort of a new launched console. It's very frustrating constantly hearing people talk about this and constantly hearing people trying to force Microsoft to have some sort of launch games for the Xbox One X, and I'll discuss that as well. So let's jump into the show. I don't want to delay it because if anybody has questions, I definitely want to hold a Q&A tonight for the fans out there because I haven't had much as of late. And I will go ahead and discuss some of the things that happened earlier. And as far as the announcement, if you missed those things, and what's going on with Tick Podcast and the future of the whole Tick Network organization. So let's get the show started. Hey, DX-Men. You're now rocking with your boy KORX Kal-El, the last son of Planet Xbox, and you're listening to Super Podshots. So, looks like Microsoft has once again put themselves in a pickle. And, I can't be mad at what, Microsoft is doing with, their first party games. I really can't. I've gone on and on and on and on about what Microsoft truly should be doing, and they're not doing it. But in this regard, I have to say that I kind of agree with the situation. So if you haven't heard or if you haven't seen, Microsoft has decided to delay Crackdown 3 until 2018. Most people who have not played the game, just based on the visuals and based on what they've seen of I guess you could say the free roam open world aspect of the game, had decided that they did not think the game looked good. They thought graphically it wasn't impressive, and a lot of people were turned off by the game. And honestly, I think a lot of people, including Microsoft, probably heard this noise. A lot of rumblings from all these different little media outlets and things like that. A lot of rumblings from a lot of different fans, a lot of different Xbox guys, PlayStation guys. And I think finally it just hit the fan for Microsoft where they're just like, you know what? We put this game out. The buzz isn't where they want it to be, and it's going to wind up flopping. It's probably going to wind up just failing. And the last thing Microsoft needs, especially in a year where this is probably like the lowest point for the Xbox brand as far as first party is concerned because of the poor opening showing, and now you have this delay. They probably realized to themselves, you know what, we're just going to take the L for the year as far as, what they have overall as a lineup, first party wise anyway, and just go ahead and have a big year in 2018, which is exactly what I've been saying for the longest time. Crackdown 3 plays well. I don't think anything is wrong with the game technically. As someone who has played the game extensively on a number of times this summer over in LA at E3, I have to say that the game played extremely well. Now, graphically, the game wasn't the most impressive. One of the things I kept stressing was that the game looked just like the original Crackdown. Except the explosions and the particle effects were a little bit better. You can see the improvement there. But the big draw to this game was the multiplayer. We weren't seeing the multiplayer. And it was supposed to show the multiplayer at this Gamescom, but they didn't. So with that being said, and the game not being there, I'm wondering if Microsoft is forced to show something that it didn't want to show early, which would then be going back on Microsoft's word as far as showing games too early. What you have here is a situation where Microsoft realizes that they cannot put themselves in the same boat that they did with Scalebound and Fable Legends. Canceling Crackdown would be 100 times worse than canceling Scalebound and Fable Legends. It would honestly, I'll be honest with you, if they canceled Crackdown, it would probably really hurt and destroy Microsoft's reputation. And a lot of people are like, nah, it wouldn't, but I really think it would, because they put so much emphasis into the cloud early on in the generation. And they showed these tech demos of Crackdown being the game that was going to truly utilize the cloud. Now, the game was supposed to be coming out for the Xbox One X. It was going to have an Xbox One X version. You had the Xbox One version. And with the multiplayer in the online, you would have had the cloud-based destruction, which was the big feature and the big draw for the game. So then turn around and cancel the game would be the biggest egg in your face you can possibly get. And if you think it was bad when they canceled Scalebound, it would be tenfold if they canceled Crackdown 3. The fanboys would go bananas and just say everything to prove Microsoft wrong with the cloud and their cloud compute, and why things didn't work, and how it never was going to work, and why Microsoft are liars, and why, you know, they're just a gimmick, and that's a gimmick, and every single thing that you can think of that could put and throw Microsoft under the bus would happen. Then have to be honest in that regard, because I would have to agree it is something that you cannot boast about and then not produce in an entire generation. You have to be able to produce something that you boasted about over multiple years. You have fans out here waiting for this game since about 2015, I think it was. So for almost the last 2.5, almost 3 years, probably by next year, maybe 2014. Can't remember what year they actually showed off the game. At the end of the day, if Microsoft cancels Crackdown, they're done. I mean, the PlayStation fans and the PC fans wouldn't matter. It would be devastating to the Xbox fans. And the Xbox fans would then lose so much trust. It's bad enough that, you know, some people, not everybody, but some fans have already felt that Microsoft has lost their trust. But this would even hurt it even more. And even if you weren't interested in Crackdown, it would be damn hard to then turn around and try to believe the next big thing that they had that's supposed to be industry changing, the next boast that they have about some type of software or technical achievement. It would be damn hard to go ahead and trust that and wait for that, because you had this thing with cloud compute happen and it never came to fruition. Even if Kinect didn't live up to what it was supposed to do, it did what it was supposed to do at least 70% of the time. One of the best games on the Kinect was Dance Central. And Dance Central really captures your moves one for one. The early versions of Kinect Sports were extremely good. The 360 version of the Kinect was actually a pretty solid achievement. It did extremely well. The games on it sold decently. And it was a different approach to the whole motion control thing. Obviously, on the Xbox One X, they forced it. A lot of people didn't want it. They didn't make it optional. And because of that, I think it not only hurt the console, but it also hurt the device. You kind of put developers in a corner and didn't give them the option to do it. You tried to force them to do it, and that didn't work either. And no one truly took advantage of the innovation of the camera and the sound capabilities of the hardware. With them now basically, in a nutshell, canceling Kinect. I mean, there's no other way around it. Canceling the Kinect when it comes to the Xbox One and future iterations of the Xbox, going third party and allowing any third party camera to work with the Xbox One X and future consoles. It becomes kind of a moot point and a device that we may not see or hear from in the future. and that device could possibly be canceled, or it will just relegate itself to something more along the lines in business, in hospitals, and as far as school is concerned, education wise, I can see it being used in those factors. But gaming wise, it's failed. But it was never canceled. And that is something that, even though it didn't work out, it was never canceled. So Microsoft delaying this game is the best thing that they could have possibly done. The absolute number one thing they could have possibly done. And I honestly don't see how this is a bad thing. I really don't. Microsoft already had a weak year to begin with in the beginning of the year. Other than the fact that they showed off, in my opinion, a great E3, which I was very excited about. A lot of awesome games, a lot of diverse games, a lot of coming first to consoles, console exclusives, or full exclusive titles. And with the delay of Crackdown, that still doesn't negate some of the third-party deals that they have. It still doesn't negate the showcase game that they have in Forza. And you still have other things, Cuphead, Super Lucky Tail, again, third-party games, 4K, enhanced games. Some games will be 60, some games will be 30. You're going to get these visual improvements. Every backwards compatible game from the original Xbox will damn near have an increase automatically if it's dynamic as in visuals, or it's open in the frames per second, which really doesn't take much for a developer to do as far as unlocking frames to go ahead and have those locked at 30 or locked at 60, thanks to the power of the Xbox One X. So people are stressing that Microsoft needs launch titles with the Xbox One X. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair because it's not a new console. And I also don't think it's fair. Because of the simple fact that the PlayStation 4 Pro also didn't come with launch titles. They did have great games to play on it, which were games that had released earlier in the year. And then the following year, you had a great game released on it that had beautiful visuals that was enhanced because of the PS4 Pro and Horizon Zero Dawn. And I have that game, and I know what it looks like, and I will genuinely tell you the game looks amazing. It truly does. It's one of the best looking games I've seen on any console. And I don't think that the Xbox One X needs those those launch titles to push it. I think it's going to be pushed regardless. And like PlayStation's 2017, which was very big for PlayStation, I think 2018 is going to be very big for the Xbox. And that's the reason why I'm not stressing about it. And I think Xbox fans shouldn't stress about it. Because again, there's been years where Sony has come out or Nintendo has come out and the year hasn't been strong. They've released some titles. Some of them were good. Some of them blew up. Some of them didn't. But for the most part, you might have a quiet year. For the most part, they might have relied on third-party and indie games at the end of the year or VR games at the end of the year. And those games carried them through because of the brand. And a lot of fans didn't care about it. So it goes unnoticed. So in my opinion, it's not fair to Microsoft to then have to produce when right now they're in a situation that honestly they put themselves in, unfortunately, but they're in a situation that they're trying to recoup from. Of Scalebound, the cancellation of Fable Legends. Both of those were supposed to release in spring. They didn't because they got canceled. You had Twisted Pixel earlier in the generation. They wound up letting that contract go, and they were actually making an exclusive for the game. Now it's going to be multi-plat. You had a great small studio in Press Play who made games like Kalimba and Matt's Curse of Brotherhood, which I enjoy to this day, and you released that studio. Now, those guys have gone on to make some great games that they're actually working on. One is called Cairo, and the other one is called Deep Rock, I believe, which that might be the new studio. But it's a dwarf game that they showed off at E3 where you kind of burrow into the earth, into the ground, and you discover all these treasures and monsters, and you battle them in like a co-op 4-man squad. And with those studios gone, you're kind of relying on your big three. And again, you're relying on your third-party deals. In any IPs you have third parties working on. And again, I've never been a fan of the Xbox One, Microsoft, and having third parties work on first party IP. Quantum Break is a first party IP. Recore is a first party IP. They own those games. Those games aren't leaving Microsoft's portfolio. They're not going anywhere. And yet those games were made by third parties that you would probably have to rely on to actually get them to actually make a sequel. If we wanted another Alan Wake, Microsoft would either have to hire people and create a new studio and work on it, or get people from Remedy, like they did with the with Epic and the Coalition, and what they did with 343 and Bungie, build a new studio from the people that they pull from Remedy and have them continue to work on that project. And we don't know if that would ever happen, because Remedy at this point is done with exclusivity. They're making multiplats going forward. Recore is another third-party developer that wind up making the game, though the pedigree of that developer is good. Unfortunately, the game didn't pan out the way people wanted it to pan out. And because it didn't pan out the way people wanted it to pan out, the game didn't get its just due. And it's not a bad game. Story-wise, gameplay-wise, not a bad game, but the game had a lot of bugs. The game had one of the worst loading times, I guess you could say, this generation. And it just didn't take off the way people expected it to, because people were looking for a mega triple A title, and it turned out to be an AA title for about $39. And some people also felt that the game was open-ended, that it didn't end correctly. They didn't get it. So, you know, those two games you own. Now, you could release sequels if you wanted to. You could work on those games, and you can build those studios. You could build those games up in a way that would be way more appealing than the first two. But how would you do that if you're relying on third-party studios? This is why first party is so important, and is why when the Xbox fans get upset when I talk about things like Microsoft should allow 343, the Coalition, and Forza to make new games, new IPs. This is the reason why. This is exactly the reason why. Because you don't have those studios, and you can't continue to just outsource other studios to build games for you. And had you had the Coalition work on another game besides Gears on the side while they make Gears 4, or if you had 343 working on a new IP besides Halo, those games could have came out this year on the down year that Gears and Halo isn't out. Forza, I think about games like Forza Horizon 3 and how amazing Forza Horizon 3 is. And the Playground team, and the Turn 10 team, and the things they do with Forza. And at this point in time, and in this generation, let's just face it, Forza is the king of racing at this point. Turn 10 and that studio and Playground Games, they are number one when it comes to racing. They really produce some pretty high quality stuff. I know a lot of people will shun that because of Gran Turismo, but the reality of it, it's just not. Gran Turismo has fallen off just a bit. It will sell because it has a cult following. It will sell regardless. But at the end of the day, Forza is king. And when you have a studio like Turn 10, you have a studio like Playground Games, I think about all the old school games that we used to have on the PlayStation 2, and the 360, and the Xbox. That was so cool. That were car games. And we don't have those games anymore. We don't have Driver. Could you imagine a new Driver? Or what was it? Spy Hunter. When you're driving and the car has all these gadgets in it. I'm not saying they have to make that into a franchise. I'm just saying you have this skill set. Forza Horizon 3 was amazing because it really made you feel like it was a story. You were this guy. You had a name. You had a character. You got out of the actual freaking car at times. You had conversations and dialogue. And yet the whole game revolved around open world racing, hiring and firing people. And when you look at that, and you look at it from that perspective, imagine a game like Driver. Imagine a game where you are constantly in different vehicles for different jobs and doing different things. And you have all those stunts that you have in Forza, all the jumps, all the drifts, you're being chased, there's shootouts happening around you, yet your whole sole purpose is to drive the car. And that could be an amazing franchise if done right, if given a story, if written the right way. That's an alternative franchise that could be produced while you're working on Forza Horizon 4 and Forza Motorsport 8. And that would make a great rotation. 343, a lot of people try to get down on 343. 343 is an amazing studio. They really are. If you look at their body of work and what they've done with Halo 5 from a technical aspect, the game is gorgeous. Okay, graphically, it looks good. The sound is amazing. A lot of people didn't like the campaign side of it, but Halo 5's multiplayer is one of the best, if not the best multiplayer of any Halo. Arguably, most people could argue that in the Xbox community. Most people would agree with that. And as much as people don't want 343 to concentrate on something else besides Halo, I sit here and think about them creating another universe in space. You can have you have your I guess you could say your space opera with Eve. You could always focus on either maybe something on Earth, maybe something fantasy, maybe something that is in space but more Mass Effect-ish, which was a big franchise for Xbox back in the day when it first released as an exclusive on the 360. About KOTOR and how that had an impact on Xbox. People yearn for those games on Xbox. People want to see those games return. A lot of people gripe that doesn't have the single player experiences, but on the 360 and on the OG Xbox, they did. They did have those experiences. And unfortunately, they've hit and missed this generation so far, but you can't stop. You have to be able to continue to try to push through until something hits and something breaks. Now, they are working on games. It's not like they don't have games that they're not working on. They are working on games. They are working on them. And again, one is, I know they got one from Capcom. I know they got one that they're working on internally. And I know there's another one. I'm not sure who the studio was with, but I know there's another one that they're working on as well. And those games are all in production, all being worked on right now. And I wouldn't be surprised, again, with Crackdown being if one of these games showed up at Gamescom now. Because Crackdown was supposed to be the showcase. And with that being delayed, do you still show it off at Gamescom? Do you still use that opportunity to promote the game, even though it's probably going to release in spring now? I don't know. I don't know if you do that. So it's definitely a situation that Microsoft finds themselves in. Once again, it seems like things can't go right for them right when everything is going right for them. Great E3, great presentation at E3. The hype for Microsoft was so huge at E3. Most talked about, people were just all over their booth. Sea of Thieves were just being played like crazy. They had so much variety and so many games there, and they had made so many deals. It was great. It was really great. It was a great experience. The energy there was just amazing. And then when I talked about it at E3 and I said, man, it was great, people laughed at me. People thought I was, I was a joke. Like, it was funny. Like, oh, I'm hyping it up for no reason. But it was really good. It really was. Meanwhile, the other two showed their stuff and nobody was impressed. Everybody was kind of like, And you look back at what Microsoft produced at that show, was actually a really good show. And they actually produced some really good content. So 2017 is looking like a wash as far as any big blockbuster titles coming out besides Forza Motorsport 7. On the other spectrum, you do have the third-party marketing deals, people really putting their foot into their games when it comes to building a game for the Xbox One X, and some anticipated smaller mid, AA titles and indie titles like Cuphead and Super Lucky Tale and, games of that nature releasing. And then, of course, you still have games like Player Unknown Battlegrounds. Conan just released today. I've been on that all day, which is just so far it's pretty good. Even for a preview program game, it's not bad. Obviously, it's buggy a bit. They need to fix it, but having it on the console first, kind of like Ark, so it's a big deal. And I think that that game, once they continue to work on it and fix it and put these updates out, it's going to be a really good game based on what I've been playing so far. So, at the end of the day, man, I'm not going to rant like everybody else on Crackdown 3 because I don't think this is a bad thing. I really don't. I really don't. It would be worse if they canceled that game. If they canceled Crackdown, it would be 10 times worse. It honestly would. And just delaying it more than likely for cosmetic reasons, which I think really is the biggest thing because a lot of people was looking at Crackdown and what they showed at E3 and how vibrant and how neon everything was with the lights and the contrast of the nighttime. And you got neon greens and pinks. It's people wanted that. How can I describe it? It's almost like that Vice City. If you ever play Vice City and drive around at night, it kind of gives you that Miami feel, that 80s feel with those lights and the neon and all that stuff like that. And that's what they kind of showed at E3's first, the CGI reveal when they were showing how you work as a team to take out a boss. And a lot of people really were into that. But when you get a chance to play the game, it didn't come off that way. It was the lighting was a bit dull. Graphically, the game was all right. It wasn't the most impressive. But the one thing that I try to stress about Crackdown that a lot of people kept ignoring was how fun the game was. The game is extremely fun. And when you get 3 other partners on there with you, it's extremely fun because there's a lot of mayhem. There's a lot of things going on, and it's an open world game. And then if you're playing the multiplayer aspect and the whole city's destructible, you could imagine how much fun that would be and how crazy that could be. Just you and a group of guys in a room playing maybe against another group or just playing in some type of private match, trying to wreck the whole city. But the backlash of how it looks graphically is what's hurting the game. And the appeal, a lot of people feel like the game was boring because the way they presented it didn't wow a lot of people. And I think Microsoft heard it and they realized that if they put the game out, that it might not sell. And I don't think they can afford to have another game not do well from first party. So delaying it and making sure that cosmetically it looks good and that the game is doing extremely well from a technical aspect, especially online, and it meets the criteria and things that they set out to do, then let them delay it. And people shouldn't worry about games being delayed. Games delayed for years and people still bought it. So I wouldn't stress about it. I don't really think it's that big of a deal. I think it's smart on Microsoft's part. And honestly, it's the best thing they could have did for Crackdown. Because even I thought, listen, Crackdown's not for everybody. Told you this, guys, at E3. Crackdown's not for everybody, but if you're a Crackdown fan, you're going to like it. That was my key thing. Everybody might not like Crackdown, but if you're a Crackdown fan, it's everything that Crackdown is, but better. Much improved. Hopefully, they'll take the time to make it even better, look better, play better, and people won't complain and cry about anything because the game will come out the way we all envision it to be. With that said, man, the Xbox One X is only a few months away. Supposedly, we're supposed to be getting the confirmation to do pre-orders on Sunday. This is my understanding. On this Sunday, we're supposed to be getting an announcement for pre-orders with Gamescom right around the corner. I'm not sure it'll be Sunday. It could be after Gamescom. It could be after Microsoft's conference at Gamescom. I have no idea. But I would keep my wallet ready. And as soon as they announce that you can pre-order them today, I would head to my local Best Buy or local store and make a pre-order. You could try to grab one on Amazon. Yeah, man, Amazon would be tough to get, but you can do a pre-order on Amazon and you don't have to pay anything on the pre-order when it comes to Amazon, and they'll grab one for you. So, I mean, that's a pretty good thing. That's a pretty good thing as far as that's concerned. when it comes from a technical aspect, the console, a lot of people are knocking the console because they feel like it's not living up to expectations. But honestly, it is. It's living up to the expectations they set. We did the interview with Albert Pernello. We talked about how they were shooting for 4K 60. It wasn't something that he had promised on the show. It wasn't something that they said it was going to be 100%. And even on the show, they stressed it's up to the developers. So I can never knock Albert Pernello and the Microsoft team for that. However, I do kind of knock them for the uncompromised comments when they first talked about the console and things like that. And obviously different engines and people doing different things may have different effects on the hardware. And yeah, I mean, if you're trying to hit 60 and you can't hit 60, then for the most part, you're going to make a compromise and you might have to drop that. But overall, power-wise, the console delivers. And that's what's really great about it. The console is going to deliver, is going to give you that enhanced feel. You're going to see the difference with the textures. And most games will be locked at whatever frames they're supposed to be locked at. Even the newer, titles based on what I've been hearing and the people that I've been talking to. So I'm definitely excited about that as well. I don't think the Xbox One X needs launch titles. I just don't. I look at 2018 in the lineup that's coming out, both first and third party. The possibilities of what we may get next year. We won't know much until we see what happens at E3 or an earlier show or they make some sort of announcement. But come fall of next year, you talk about the marketing deals with Anthem, the marketing deals with Metro. You got Sea of Thieves, State of Decay 2. Now Crackdown will be next year. You'll probably have Forza Horizon 4 or some sort of game. Playground is actually working on another game, some sort of RPG. I'm not sure if they'll deliver Forza Horizon or they're just going to work on that game and give Forza a break for a bit. But you have that game possibly as well. You got Dragon Ball Super. You're going to have Code Vein. A lot of big games coming out that was in that Microsoft conference. A lot of awesome indie games. Ashen, which is amazing. If you heard my show about Ashen when I came back from E3, I talked about how impressed I was with this game and how this game went from just being an indie to like a AA that Microsoft picked up. And I'm just shocked at what they're doing with the game. Graphically, it's not one of the most out of this world looking games. It's not something that's going to knock the doors off of anything, but just from a creative standpoint, what they're trying to do within the game, how you play the game co-op wise, the way you build villages, absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. If you want to hear that and hear my thoughts on that and what I'm talking about, make sure you look up Super Podshots, E3 Day 1. Make sure you check that out. I get a chance. I get behind the scenes on Ashen. I get behind the scenes on a few games, talking with the Microsoft creators and the developers of games like State of Decay and Forza and Ashen and things like that, as well as, the hardware for the Xbox One X. So make sure you check out our E3 coverage if you want to hear anything on Ashen and get technical aspects on those games, as well as State of Decay and Forza. But with that being said, the Xbox One X, I just can't stress enough why people need to stop saying it's not launching with anything. It doesn't have any launch titles. It's an unfair thing, and only Microsoft is getting this. The Xbox One X is not a brand new spanking generation of a console. It's not. So to make it seem like it is it's not fair. I understand how people feel about the Pro and how people feel like the Pro is basically just a step up from the PS4 and it doesn't feel like a new generation. Meanwhile, the Xbox One X is a step up from the Pro. And the Pro was a step up from the PS4 and the Xbox is a step up from the Pro, and people feel like it's a brand new console in a brand new generation. But it's an unfair point that you're putting on a mid-generation console, because when 3 or 4 years come and the actual next console comes out, you can't then say, at least most people who are Xbox fans can't say, oh, well, they had the PS4 Pro and the game shouldn't be the same. Like, they should have launch titles with a brand new console. And for that, I 100% agree. If the next console comes out after this mid-gen upgrade, then I 100% agree with you on that. Those consoles, the PlayStation 5 and the Honey Badger, which is what I call the next Xbox, not Scorpio 2 or something like that. I call it the Honey Badger. If the Honey Badger comes out, then the Honey Badger needs to have launch exclusives with it, just like PlayStation 5 should have launch exclusives with it. However, it should also have all the games that you're able to play on Scorpio should be backwards compatible and be able to play on the Honey Badger. On another note, the Xbox One X as a mid-gen upgrade, it's already has its back against the wall, and people are trying to put it at a disadvantage by trying to force it to have exclusives and trying to make Crackdown sound like it's a launch title. Crackdown isn't a launch title. Crackdown was coming out on the regular Xbox. It was just a regular game. They just put the date that Crackdown come out was the same time as the Xbox One X. But if the Xbox One X wasn't coming out, it would just be a regular release date for Crackdown coming out on a regular Xbox One. It's a very asinine situation to me. It really is. It's very frustrating when you're talking to people and people keep stressing launch titles. Most people will wind up playing a lot of games that they either didn't play or play games again to see how they look. Me, for one, I've never played Witcher 3. Anchorman has been stressing me out about it. A lot of guys have been stressing me out about it. And I'm going to play Witcher 3 on the Xbox One X. Will be my first time playing the game and the first experience that I have with Witcher 3. Brand new game to me. I'm going to finish Final Fantasy 15 on the Xbox One X. I wound up stop playing the game. I'm definitely picking up Shadow of War. The Lord of the Rings game. So I'm definitely excited. I'm excited about not Shadow of War. What is it? I'm about to say Elder Scrolls, but it's not Elder Scrolls. But you guys know what I'm talking about. And it's just one of those things where the Xbox One X has all the potential, and all these games are being enhanced for it, and all these games are running at 60, and all these games are at 4K native. And I just want to get my hands on it, man, to see how everything plays, everything runs, and truly just enjoy these games at a level that I haven't been able to play it at yet. And when the next set of consoles come out, I'm going to pick those up too. I'm excited about it. I think everybody should be excited about the Xbox One X. Shouldn't you want power? I'm not saying power is everything, but that's what we get new consoles for. To run games and to play games better and make them look better than what they are. Nintendo Switch is a great platform. It's a great console and a great handheld. But they already aren't getting major third-party games. They already aren't getting major third-party games. Just think about that. You mean to tell me once the ball gets rolling on the Xbox One X and the PS4 Pro, and people are really dedicating games to those platforms, that the Switch is going to be able to keep up third-party wise? It's not. Switch will be relying on smaller titles or games that aren't demanding. But all the big things like Red Dead Redemption and Star Wars Battlefront, those games aren't going. Those are the big games that people want to play, and those games aren't going. So it's just one of those things where I look at it from a perspective that the Xbox One X as a platform is going to be good. Next year, they got a lot of games coming out. Microsoft has games that they're working on. The delay for Crackdown 3 is unfortunate for people who've been interested in Crackdown 3, but moving it to next year, 2018, was the smartest thing they could have done. The smartest move they could have made. Because canceling that game would have been a bigger disaster than anything they have done this entire generation. I absolutely cannot stress that enough. It would have been a bigger disaster than them, launching the Xbox One X. Because this cloud thing has been a huge talking point for the Xbox platform for 3 years. And not to release and be canceled would really, really hurt the Xbox brand and hurt Xbox first party. So good to know that the game's being delayed. They're continuing to work on it. Hopefully we'll get a date for it. And we got Gamescom coming up to see what's going on with Microsoft and see what they got to show us at this Gamescom, as well as Tokyo Game Show. And I'm hearing they're supposed to show some new stuff. This is what I'm hearing. I don't know how true it is, but I'm hearing they're supposed to show some new stuff. Again, if you check out our interview with Aaron Greenberg at E3, I know the audio isn't the best, but definitely check it out. It is in our interview section. We had a one-on-one with Aaron Greenberg at E3, and at the end of that interview, we talked about Gamescom, and I asked him if they were going to have any surprises. And, he hinted that they would. So definitely check out that interview and definitely check out Gamescom next week. Definitely excited about it. So listen, man, I want to jump into some tick stuff, some tick news that happened earlier today. If you missed our announcement, we have now brought in this awesome new podcast team. I'm sure you've heard of them. If not, they are called the Iron Lord Podcast. Shout out to Lord King, Lord Cognito, Lord Attic, and Lord Sav. Awesome guys, man. Just wonderful people. I'm so excited to bring them into the network. These guys are so genuine and so down to earth. They're going to be bringing you some very exciting conversations and so much energy that I think you guys are really going to love it here at Tick Network. And you definitely be able to find them on iTunes, just like you find all of our other content, Google Play, Stitcher app. You'll be able to listen to them in the background while you're playing Destiny. These guys are big into Destiny, man. And if you like Destiny, these are the guys to talk to. These are the guys to listen to. Big Switch Gang guys as well. If you're into Switch Gang, shout out to the Switch Gang. If you're into that, definitely check out the new Iron Lord Podcast on the Inner Circle Network. We also brought in Venom 2 Million. If you know who Venom is a prominent comic book guy. He talks a lot about comics, talks about movies, talks about a lot of awesome things in the realm of entertainment. And he is now a part of the Inner Circle team as well. He will be doing comic book reviews for us on TICGN.com, as well as giving us his top 5 comics for the month and having a feature spot part-time on Multiverse every once in a blue. So you guys will be able to hear Venom, Anchorman V, and team go back and forth on what's best, DC or Marvel, what's a good movie, this movie or that movie. And I'm excited about that and seeing how that dynamic plays out. Tick Podcast will be moving our show to Saturday nights at 10 p.m. starting in September. So I'm excited about that. New time, new channel. We definitely want to try to capture as many fans out there that love listening to us and guys out there that like listening to the opinions of Anchor, myself, and of course B Money, who we miss dearly. Hopefully we can get him back on the show on the next episode. But we will definitely be moving the show to Saturday nights at 10 p.m. Definitely try to capture some of our UK and overseas fans, man. And if you guys can't catch the show, you can always catch it on iTunes. You can always catch it on mobile. You know what I'm saying? So you'll never miss us there. We also have 2XP. You guys know about 2XP, man. 2XP is our debate show on Fame Entertainment channel. You can check it out. That's the raw version. You're going to get all the cursing and all the adult things that we don't do on Tick Network. However, you will get the edited version here, which I know a lot of people love to check out the debate on 2XP. And we are working on a way to give our fans the 2XP show and another new show that we'll be working on called After. I want to say After Hours. I want to say, I don't know if I got that right. I'm just learning some of the new things. But shout out to Dizzy. If you don't know who Dizzy is a great friend of ours. He was the owner of Playback Gaming. He ran it with himself and Bella for a while. Bella Rise, you guys know who Bella Rise is for a while. And, as Bella stepped away and created RGM, he ran Playback Gaming by Dolo. We have now went ahead and merged and brought over that team into TICGN.com. Playback Gaming is now officially TICGN.com. And all that news and the writing team from Playback Gaming is now a part of TICGN. So if you're following those guys on Facebook, man, don't worry. The Facebook page is not going to get shut down. Tick Network is going to merge that page with our Tick page so you can continue to keep all the things that you liked about playback while getting all the new stuff and new content from Tick Networks. And I'm just excited about it all, man. We also brought Mama Sita in. Mama Sita is officially a part of the Tick family now, and she's been a staple at 2XP. And, you know, unfortunately, with our Trophy Life show, Nicodemus X will be stepping down. It's been a bit much for him. He's going to just stick with 2XP, and we are searching for a new host for our PlayStation podcast. Don't worry, we will get that taken care of as soon as we can for our PlayStation fans. So listen, man, that's it for the show. I can't stress enough that, you know, Crackdown 3 is a game that's extremely fun. Hopefully Microsoft is doing right by the game, taking the time out to delay it and work on it cosmetically to really make it appeal to all the Xbox fans. And I want people to stop stressing the Xbox One X needs launch titles. It truly doesn't. It's a double standard, and it's a standard that only Microsoft gets. Microsoft and the Xbox brand is, I hate to say this, but I feel like for the company to be the third largest company in the world, sometimes people treat the Xbox One X like it's like a minority or something. You know, like it has to go through all these extra hoops, you know, just to appeal to everybody who may not have an Xbox. And I hate to put it that way, but the reality of it is that's kind of like how it is. People can forgive Nintendo for the things that they do wrong. People can forgive PlayStation for the things they do wrong, but people will hold a grudge against Microsoft and the Xbox brand forever and not let go. It's a crazy dynamic to me that Microsoft has to go through this extra mile just to get the approval of some gamers. It's sad. It really is a sad situation. But you know what? The true fans are there. The hardcore fans are there. And I know you guys out there will continue to support Xbox and the Xbox One X when it drops. I'm definitely excited about it. And I can't wait to see what they have coming up in 2018. Definitely going to get my hands on Super Lucky Tail. Had a lot of fun with that at E3. And definitely want to get my hands on Cuphead. My boy's going to pick up Forza, and I'm picking up games like Assassin's Creed Origins, which looks amazing on the Xbox One X, and Shadow of War. Looks amazing as well. So I'll be picking those games up. So again, man, I want to thank everybody for stopping out. I'm going to go ahead and start the Q&A. I'm going to end the show for the MP3 crowd. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and put those in the chat, and I will do my best to answer them. And starting in September, we're going to have the new show format. We're going to have currently set up, again, Tick Podcast will be moving our show to Saturday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern, and we will have, I know it's football season coming up. Hear me out. Hear me out. But we will have the Iron Lord podcast normally will shoot their show Sundays at 1 p.m. But because of football season, then we will have a different schedule adjustment set up. We're going to work those things out, and as soon as we figure those things out, we will let you guys out there know when you can catch the new Iron Lord podcast on Tick Network. And everything else mostly looks like it's going to be the same. We will get more into what our lineup looks like and where you can catch all of our shows. And again, we're working on a crazy new thing with Patreon and trying to give you guys some hardcore content for the adults out there. And man, I'm just excited for everything. I can't wait to really get the ball rolling on all this stuff coming up in the fall. Like Xbox, man, everything is just getting better for us come fall and winter. Such a great people we brought in, and I'm just excited about this new group that we have. So much energy, man. I'm super hype about it. So listen, let's go ahead and end the show. You guys got any questions, go ahead, throw them in the chat. I will do my best to answer them. And let's get talking about this delay with Crackdown. So I'm your host, KLSKL, the last son of planet Xbox, and I'm off this planet. You guys out there and the listening world, have a great night. Peace. All right. So shout out to everybody, man. Dizzy, Cog. Thank you guys for stopping in. Anchor. Man, the people earlier, man, I appreciate you guys stopping in as well. Skull. J-Dub was in here. What up, J-Dub? Honey Badger. What is this voodoo you speak of? Funny stuff, man. But let's see here. Go ahead and ask some questions. I'll do my best to answer them. Last Side Ninja asks, Cal, we know Microsoft's first party is struggling, but what stops them from buying and making third-party games like Vampire or Tomb Raider exclusive? And doing those games. I mean, listen, a lot of people, I think, give Microsoft too much power because they're such a big company and they have a lot of money. But in order to purchase something, it has to be sellable. A lot of people want Microsoft to buy Remedy. And they're like, oh my God, how could you let Remedy go? Remedy has to want to be bought. Sam Lake and that team has to want to be bought. They have to be like, you know what? We're ready to give up the studio that we've been running independently for years, X amount of years. And we're just going to hand over the reins and all of our proprietary rights to Microsoft. And we're pretty much going to take a back seat. You have to want to be bought. Most studios that are bought are either in a situation where they're desperate and they don't want to go under, so they sell, or some people want to get out and they sell, or you do a contract like a Bungie or a Twisted Pixel, which is what those were. You do 5-year contracts, which is what Bungie did with Microsoft, and then you have a 10-year contract, which is what they did with Activision for Destiny. And if you are able to grab if you're able to stick with a publisher like Microsoft, you wind up producing a lot of IPs for them that Microsoft owns and things like that. But I think people tend to forget that unlike Sony, the Xbox is a division within a major conglomerate that Microsoft is, and is not even the main money factor for the company. You're talking about Azure Cloud, Windows OS, Surface tablets, which is actually a part of the Xbox division, and enterprise and things like that for businesses. You look at those things. That's where all their money really truly is in, and their software. It's what makes Microsoft so powerful. And now they're going into a cloud first, mobile first type of heading as far as leadership is concerned. They're really trying to branch out, and they've only gotten better. They've only gotten more powerful and more stronger, especially with them growing their cloud services. So, Microsoft, man, and the Xbox division, it's not that they can't create new studios. And I said this before. Everybody killed me for it. I swear to God, I just feel like Microsoft is holding the Xbox brand back just a little bit. And in order for Xbox as a independent entity within the Microsoft's company, in order for them to be able to create new things, the things they do have to be successful, and they have to be making massive amounts of money. And I learned a lot of this stuff from the father of Xbox, Seamus Blackley. And we had to interview with Seamus Blackley. I keep referring to it. One of the things that he said that was eye-opening was the fact that when Phil Spencer and that team decided to make the Xbox One X, that just opened up a new purse for Microsoft. It opened up a new purse for them to dig money in to make games for the Xbox One X, because you have to have games that show off that hardware. So it really puts them in a situation All right. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, again, man, I apologize. It seems thunderstorming where I'm at, and in Florida, when when lightning strikes, sometimes it will shut your power off. So I had to go and reset my breakers and things like that. I do apologize about that. That was completely unexpected and definitely caught me off guard. Um, yeah, man. Listen, as I was saying, when it comes to Microsoft and them purchasing things, man, it's not as easy as one would think. So there's a lot of factors into purchases and things like that. I would have loved if they would have picked up Capcom back in the day or Sega, but there's a lot of factors when it comes to Japanese studios and things like that when those studios were hurting. So, we'll see what happens in the future. Hopefully, Microsoft will be able to create some new studios. They're working on some things. I don't know who they're working with. All I know is that they have games in production, and they're supposed to be big AAA monster titles. That, and hopefully, we see some really cool stuff. Let's see here. TF God asks, in lieu of the FCC certification holdups and Crackdown 3 delay, do you think there's a possibility the Xbox One X could get delayed into 2018? I do not. I don't think so. The Xbox One X hardware is pretty much ready. It's just the API software, the dev kits that's still being upgraded. But for the most part, everything is ready because everything is backwards compatible on this damn thing. All the plugs, the inputs, the controllers, everything works on it from your OG Xbox. Or at least the Xbox One S. Let me not say OG because the power cords are different. But the power cord on the Xbox One S will work on the Xbox One X. So that's really cool in itself. Games that we've played at E3 were on Xbox One X dev kits. Some of them were on PC, but for the most part, a good portion of them were on dev kits. So I don't think the console will be delayed. It's rare, very rare that we get console delays. I don't even think there's ever been a console delay, honestly. I don't see the console being delayed unless it's like a crazy thing where there's something wrong with the hardware and it's disastrous for sales. So I don't see that happen. I think that the console will release on time. Microsoft is just sort of doing a Sony and kind of bolstering their 28 lineup by delaying some games. And that's just the reality of it. And if they got new things that they're dropping in 2018 with the games they have delayed, they're going to have a pretty strong lineup in 2018. I know a lot of people will focus on the delay, but that's exactly what happened to this year with Sony and why Sony has such a great game. A lot of those games that came out early in 2018, and they all hit and they were all reviewed and did very well. They weren't reviewed well as in being biased. They just were really good games, and they reviewed extremely well. So it really bolstered the lineup for PlayStation earlier in the year. I think Microsoft has a good 2018, man. Just third party wise, Japanese titles, MMOs coming out like Black Desert. Excited about that. And then Sea of Thieves, Crackdown, State of Decay 2, and then whatever they have coming out in the holiday of 2018. Because the games I just talked about is coming out in spring. That's coming out earlier in the year, finally. So I could imagine what's coming out later in the year. Not to mention Ashen will drop next year as well. The Last Night. A lot of big games. A lot of smaller indies. Just you look at that lineup, man, they got a lot of stuff coming out in 2018. It's going to be a big year for the Xbox One X and Xbox One in their lineup. 2017 is a wash, though. It definitely is a wash. Well, at least Microsoft will have a jam-packed spring and summer. Agreed. They will definitely have a jam-packed spring, summer, and fall because they always got something in fall. That's the one thing I give Microsoft. They always have something in fall. Zedpo1 says, who are you getting to interview next on your show? Right now, I've been in talks with Mr. Craig Duncan, the head of Rare. And we've been communicating back and forth trying to find the right time and schedule to get him to come on Tick Podcast to talk about Sea of Thieves and Rare, and what's going on with Rare in the future, and as well as what we could expect out of Sea of Thieves and customizations and things like that. They've had a great dev diary. I know a lot of people probably aren't familiar with it or aren't following it, but if you're following it, they show a lot of great aspects to the game in their dev diaries on the Sea of Thieves YouTube channel. So we will definitely be chatting up with him soon, and hopefully I can finally secure my interview with the head of Microsoft Studios, Miss Shannon Loftus, which we've been talking for almost like 8 months at this point, since like last November, probably like going on almost an entire year if I don't get her on before November. It's just a scheduling thing. Y'all, scheduling, and with all the events coming up and them working on games, and it's very difficult. Early on, it didn't seem as difficult, and they were more willing because honestly, Microsoft was in a position of weakness. So obviously they wanted to put themselves in good graces. I was a great person to talk to. I had, team, and still do have a great team where we're able to communicate to them and ask the right questions, and the fans get their questions asked, and truly they were really talking to us. But now they've sort of put themselves in a position where they're starting to recover. The fan base is growing, the install base was growing, and they're putting more into and less into talking to people. Talking to me anyway. I don't know about IGN, anything like that. IGN is IGN. I'm not IGN, obviously. So, we'll see what happens. Zedpo1 also says, before the cancellation of Scalebound, Microsoft was going to release a comic for it, and Crackdown having a comic. Do you think they are expanding their franchise? I think they definitely were trying to expand the Crackdown franchise. They were definitely trying to build upon it, try to make it into something. The problem with Crackdown is that Crackdown comes off as just a generic game. You have characters that no one remembers. You kind of just pick a person and just play. And it's a mayhem game. So there's nothing really to follow. And because of that, it put Crackdown in a situation where it didn't have an appeal long term. It really felt short term because it's such a fun mayhem game like Saints Row. But Saints Row had a different appeal because it started out like Grand Theft Auto, turned it over to this wacky, out of control mayhem type game. So Crackdown has, along with Cruz, gave them a star to put a face to on the title of the game. Making a comic would give their characters identity. It would give the villains identity. It would really open up what Crackdown is. And maybe they wanted to lay that also to put more lore into Crackdown, but I have no idea. I would love to get a chance to talk to somebody to find out what's happening. I can tell you right now, it would be me to find out. I'll try to reach out to some of my guys that I know who hooks me up with info here and there, but other than that, man, I couldn't tell you. Forget to say, what Microsoft franchise do you want to see a comic of? Man, a comic of Microsoft. I couldn't. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I'll be honest with you. Thing that you would want a comic for, they have. There is a Gears. There's like Gears books, novels, and comics. There's Halo novels, movies. There's things for those things. Fable would have been good if they would have stuck with the first Fable. And like what is it? A Jack of all knives or whatever it is. I can't remember his name. Stuck with the first character and kind of centered around this world where Jack maybe would have been the first villain and you moved on to the next villain, but you kind of was the same character. That stuff like that. They kind of messed it up and then going to 3. So it just was one of those things where they jumped too far in the future. The lore got messed up. And it just was something that, honestly, Crackdown just needs a complete reboot. It really does. It needs a reboot, and they need to really make it something a bit more mature, focus on the lore of the game. And I think they would have a big franchise if they were able to do that. Some people don't want Crackdown to change, but I just can't stress enough. I'm not Crackdown. I keep saying Crackdown because I'm talking about, I'm sorry. The Fable that we were used to playing was never a megaton franchise. It just was never one of those franchises that really people got. It's like the next Halo. It was never in that category as Halo, Gears, Forza. It just wasn't. It was the B tier franchise, and it was looked at as a B tier franchise because Peter Molyneux would always exacerbate what the game actually is, up to the potential and expectations that was set for it. So when the games would come out, people would be disappointed. So they really need to reboot the franchise and kind of move in a direction where I think they really take it more seriously, put more lore into it, make it a little bit more mature, a little bit more dark, and make a real, fantasy type game with goblins and dragons and people with mystical powers and abilities and stuff like that. I think it'll be really dope if they did that. Victor Alstein says, I think people are just disappointed that Phil has brought no deals and has been relying on Don Matrix deals all this time. There is what people don't realize, and I think people tend to ignore, and what he has set up. And this is what I was trying to talk about before I got cut off with the Seamus Blackley situation, was in him creating Xbox One X, it opened up a purse for him. But what he also did was build that Xbox Game Pass. They really start to put a lot into games with gold. And they really start to put a lot into deals with gold. And they really start to put a lot into these services. What services wind up doing is building a cushion for you to fall on if something fails. So when you do take the big money to invest in a big time franchise, if that franchise is not successful, you have all of these services that people are paying into to support that failure. Like if you're not able to recoup big money, like Quantum Break was basically a loss. Let's just face it. That game had real TV episodes built into it. The game graphically was impressive. It's been worked on for such a long time. They put a ton of money into that game, and they didn't recoup it because the game didn't sell well. It didn't do well at all. And because of that, it hurt the franchise, and it hurt Microsoft financially, I believe. And a lot of their franchises over the generation haven't been doing what they did on the Xbox 360. So because of that, I think making these services allows them to then turn around and take more risk. Because unlike Sony, the main thing that they're relying on, they just aren't. PlayStation is such a big brand for Sony at this point, especially after selling off so much stuff. It's the brand. They rely on that brand. They rely on the money that comes into it. It's very important to Sony. For Microsoft, Xbox is important because you're getting Windows and the Xbox brand into homes, and people are using those services to purchase things. But the real moneymaker is in the services and the purchases from the store, and the movies being bought, and the games being bought out of the store, and the trials like the Xbox Live sub and the Game Pass sub and things like that. It's not the hardware. The hardware really doesn't make money for anybody, honestly, long term. As it gets cheaper and cheaper, it does. But by that time, people aren't buying it in as much abundance it first comes out. So because of that, people rely on software, and software is king. So having these services allows him to have a cushion. So say, for example, this big game that they're working on that's supposed to be in the frame of like a Horizon Zero Dawn, this big open world single player adventure. If that game doesn't pan out and no one buys it and it flops, you have all of this money that you've been making everywhere else to fall back on. And that's really important. And him making the Xbox One X, which is the Phil Spencer console, having these services for the Xbox fan base, EA Access, and all these other little things that people buy into, it will help build a foundation for Xbox going forward. I think everything takes time. You got to remember, Don Matrick had Xbox on 360. So not only did he come in like the last quarter years at the I forget his name, who went to EA. Peter, I can't remember his name, but the old VP from, or the old COO from EA, who now is running a soccer team. When you have a guy like that leave, who did phenomenal for Microsoft, and then bring in Don Matrick, who kind of built Microsoft the company, built Xbox the company with stuff like the Xbox Live Gold and, you know, giving the free games thanks to PlayStation, as well as doing these, you know, time deals. Instead of getting the exclusive, they're doing time deals and 30-day deals and all that stuff. All that stuff bolstered Microsoft's name. It really did. The one thing I would say about Don Matrick is he's not very smart game-wise. He wasn't a good people person, but as a business person, and as far as putting Microsoft's business, Xbox's business on the map, he did a great job at that. He really did. But us, he failed the Xbox gamer with what they wanted to do with the original Xbox and the way he approached it. And that was the failure of Don Matrick, honestly. He was. And from there, he wasn't successful again. He worked at Zynga, and then he got pretty much laid off from Zynga, or quit Zynga too. So at the end of the day, Phil Spencer, I think, is taking a different approach. The CEO of Microsoft is also taking a different approach. I think Microsoft is just not doing what Ballmer did on the 360, which was damn near, they had an open checkbook. I don't think Xbox One has that. I don't think Phil has that, and they have to take a different approach in the way that they are going to be developing games and first-party studios for the Xbox brand. Victor Alstein says, situations like this is why you need 343 Coalition and Turn 10, making more than one game or IP. It's something I said earlier. A lot of people don't want that to happen, but you're going to wind up getting franchise fatigue. I got franchise fatigue from Assassin's Creed. I didn't buy Syndicate, and I didn't buy whatever came out before that. And, you know, it's just, after a while, you just get tired. You know, you get tired. Like, it's like, oh my God, I can't keep playing the same game. And as much as we fans love Halo, Halo 5 didn't sell. Well, let me not say that. Halo 5 did actually extremely well. It really did. Maybe not in comparison to the original Halo franchises from Bungie, but it did extremely well. With that being said, I'm sure it can do much, much better if we didn't have an abundance of Halo in the opening years. And what I mean by that is not just Halo with Master Chief, but just Halo as a franchise. No matter how you spin it, Halo is Halo. We had that Halo indie game. What was it, like Halo Strike or whatever it was? You had the indie game. Then the following year, you had the Master Chief collection. And then the year after that, you had Halo 5. And then after that, we wound up getting Halo Wars. Like it's just, think about that for a second. You know, it's like we had Halo Wars this year, but they wound up making Halo Wars. Like there's a Halo. There's always a Halo. And at some point, the fan base is going to get tired of Halo. And you have Xbox gamers no longer purchasing Halo or moving on to another system. And just the hardcore guys who purchase Halo, no longer the casual guys. That's not what you want. So being able to rotate games out, maybe having another big franchise from one of those studios and have, here's your Halo with Master Chief. Here's this new franchise. Here's Halo Wars 2. Here's Halo with Master Chief. Here's this new franchise. That would definitely open things up a lot. It really would open things up a lot. You know, having Forza 7 1 year, having Forza Motorsport 1 year, having Forza Horizon the next year, then having Forza Motorsport another. After a while, even though Forza Horizon 3 did amazingly well, and I think Forza 7 will do amazingly well because of the Xbox One X, and just based on what I know about the game, it's fatigue from that because they're treating that like a sports title. And sports titles come out every year. In some years, people don't buy sports titles. Like I haven't bought Madden since God knows when. The last Madden I bought, like physically, like actually by disc, was like 2012, I think it was. And then I wound up getting Madden 16 super cheap, no 17 super cheap, because it was like $15 with deals with gold or something to play with some friends. And now I'm going to pick up Madden 18 because I got a chance to play it on the Xbox One X at E3. So that's exciting, and I'm definitely looking forward to playing that. But end of the day, man, it's really important that Microsoft let these studios expand a little. They're talented studios, and they should be able to create new things. I would love for the Coalition to make Gears of War in Shanghai. Different, completely the opposite of what Gears is. You know what I'm saying? You play a spy, a super spy, a James Bond-esque or whatever, with like, weapons that are futuristic. And you're doing all of these jobs. You're scaling buildings and cutting through windows with lasers, and you're cloaked and nobody can see. I would love a stealth game. Microsoft needs a stealth action game like it's nobody's business. God knows we need a new Splinter Cell. So you can imagine having a stealth action game on Xbox. It would be great. And that's something that no one is doing. No one is doing that. Perfect Dark is sitting there, and I had a conversation with Ken Lobb to reboot Perfect Dark into a stealth action game where the story revolves around alien espionage on Earth. And, you're this super spy with Joanna Dark and a stealth action game. But instead of it being first person, it's a third person game like Metal Gear. I would love that. That would be amazing. And it would give Microsoft another female mascot on a team. With all these women out there now representing all these big games, it would be great for Microsoft to put Joanna back out there. So we'll see what happens. Maybe they do it, maybe they don't. I'm not sure. But hopefully someone's listening. I know some guys listen to Tick podcasts here and there. Hopefully someone's listening, and they'll get inspired by some of the questions you guys ask and some of my answers. Zedpo1 says, what IP do you think each of Microsoft studios can make? I couldn't tell you. What I can tell you is that they need a stealth action game. They need a big RPG. They need a horror title. They definitely need some type of horror title exclusively. And they need an adventure game, some sort of hack and slash or adventure game. 4 big things that they need, as far as, and all of those games need to be single player experiences. We all know what Microsoft can do. I think one of the downfalls of Scalebound is the fact that they made that game multiplayer. I think if they eliminate the co-op from that game survives and we get Scalebound. Honestly, that's just my personal opinion. I know that there were other factors into why it got canceled, but man, it would have been amazing if we were able to get the game and they didn't have to try to put the co-op aspect into it. Because I sat here and said to myself, as soon as I saw the gameplay, and I said, okay, they need more work on it. But then you start thinking about how laggy it might have been and how buggy it looked, and you start putting 4 big ass dragons on screen with 4 people with all of those particle effects and the fire and all that stuff going on, bro. Forget it. That game will drop down to like 2 frames per second. Because that's how it looked. Like it was going to drop down to 2 frames per second. I just couldn't see playing that type of game with that much stuff happening, all those dragons on screen, those particle effects in a semi-open world environment. It wasn't even like it was linear where you were going down a straight path. It was semi-open in a way where it was like you had these large spaces to maneuver around and move around. Because you have to, because Thubang, the dragon, was so big, he had to be able to move around. And you could ride on his back and fly. So it's just one of those things where, they got to be able to hit the mark on some of these first person, these single player experiences. Fable was that game that was a great single player experience that they no longer have. They got to get back to it, man. They have to. So listen, man, I want to thank everybody for stopping out. I really appreciate all the questions. Again, I can't stress enough that, if you listen to the show earlier, people shouldn't stress out about Crackdown 3. It's a good thing it's being delayed. people shouldn't put the added pressure, I think, on Xbox to have launch exclusives for a mid-gen console. I don't think that's wise, and it's a double standard as well. And we'll return with new content next week, new Super Podshots, Tick podcasts tomorrow night with myself, Anchorman V, and B Money 101. All of the network shows will return in September, along with the new team, the new podcast team, Iron Lord Podcast, as well as we're working on a Patreon for the guys out there that want something that's a little bit more mature, a little bit more adult, with 2XP and a new show that Dizzy that we just brought in. Dizzy is going to be working on, called After Hours, where guys are actually having drinks and talking gaming, more of a talk show aspect, whereas guys are having beer, liquor, or something like that, and then actually talking gaming, more of a talk show, which I think is a really, really cool idea for guys out there that are into those type of things and just want to kind of relax, lay back, crack one open, and just talk, listen to some games and kind of relax and chill out. And we're going to try to get the Patreon up on that. Some of the ideas that we have planned going forward are things like rentable servers exclusively for our fan base, for guys out there who want to play games like Player Unknown Battlegrounds and Conan and Ark Survival Evolved. We're going to be delving into that. And you'll hear more about that stuff later on. We're working on our merchandise for the fans out there that want to get merch. We got some cool things lined up. And for Tick Podcast and the Xbox fan base, if you are looking for a group dedicated to Xbox and for hardcore guys, go on Facebook and join the DX Men of the DX Mansion. That is the official that's the official Xbox group for Tick Podcast. I can't stress enough, the guys in there are so cool, so awesome, man. Down to earth, very energetic Xbox group out there. And everybody is super friendly. Guys play together. No nonsense. None of the fanboy BS is in there, man. It's just Xbox all day, every day, 124/7. So make sure you guys go ahead and join the group. And again, that's called the DX Men of the DX Mansion. Shout out to those guys and my team over there. Make sure you guys sign up. That's it for this week, man. Again, I can't stress enough. Great things are happening. Make sure you guys go over to ticgn.com for the latest news and content. Give us a follow on Twitter at @TIC_podcast and at Tick Game Network for all of your video game news and content. Thank you for the support, man. You have no idea how important you guys are to us. You help us grow, you help us expand, and I promise to continue to deliver the type of content and news you want to hear. None of the BS, none of the drama, just real news, rumors, and interviews. Thank you. Have a great night. I'm your host, KORSKLL, the last on the planet Xbox, and I'm off this planet. Peace.